From the moment your lungs filled with your first breath, the rules of this world were stacked against you. Not because you were weak, but because you were something they could not control. You've likely felt it, haven't you? A quiet but persistent sense that you didn't belong, not in the way others seemed to. It's no accident. You were born with something different, something uncontainable. While most are molded to fit into a world of conformity, you carry a blueprint entirely your own, a design that defies their rigid systems. The truth is, those who hold the reins of power have always known about people like you. They've seen it in history, in the lone voices that sparked revolutions, in the minds that refused to stay asleep while the rest of the world stumbled blindly. And they fear it. Not the kind of fear that comes from a loud, visible threat, but a quiet, consuming dread of something they cannot predict or control. Your potential is not the kind they celebrate in classrooms with gold stars and plaques. No, your type of potential threatens the structures they've built to maintain their authority. You don't just see cracks in the system, you instinctively know how to dismantle them. It's not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's the intrinsic understanding that things can and must change. But here's the catch. They've known this about you from the start. That's why they've thrown obstacles in your path, labeled you too much, or tried to mold you into something smaller or more manageable. They've spent their time plotting, distracting, and exhausting you, hoping you'd never discover the truth. The power they fear isn't just inside you. It is you. You are not an accident. You are a spark, a challenge to the status quo, and a living embodiment of the truth they fought to suppress. They've built systems to keep you asleep and the world from waking up to your brilliance. But the game has always been rigged against you because they've known that everything they've built would crumble if you ever realized your capabilities. You don't need to shout or fight to expose the world for what it truly is. Simply existing as you are is enough to unsettle those who cling to power. Your presence is like a mirror that reflects the truths people would rather ignore. It's not something you consciously do. It's how your mind cuts through the surface, past the polished lies, and straight into the reality hidden underneath. They can sense it, even if they can't articulate it. When you walk into a room, their carefully constructed facades tremble. You see beyond their words, past their rehearsed smiles and calculated gestures. It's not magic. It's your natural ability to perceive what others overlook. Their insecurities, hidden agendas, and the masks they wear to keep the world fooled are all laid bare in your presence. This unspoken power is what makes you dangerous. For those who thrive on control, your clarity is a threat. Their systems, power, and authority depend on people staying blind to their potential. They need obedience. They need distractions. They need everyone to believe the stories they've constructed about how the world works. But you disrupt that balance simply by being yourself. Even when you don't speak, your energy does. It's subtle, quiet, but relentless. You make people uncomfortable because you force them to confront what they've buried. The dreams they abandoned, the injustices they accepted, the lies they've told themselves to make life more bearable. And here's the irony. While they try to make you doubt your worth, their fear of you reveals the truth. You don't just expose their shadows. You hold the light that makes them impossible to ignore. They've tried to keep you trim, to convince you that you're the problem. But their world was built on illusions, and you see through them. Whenever you speak your truth or refuse to conform, the cracks in their control widen. They fear you not because you're wrong, but because they know you're right. Since the beginning, they've tried to convince you that your sensitivity was a flaw. You're too emotional, they said. You overthink everything, they added. Society has long pushed the narrative that strength lies in hardness, ignoring feelings, and going through without pause. But that's because they don't understand what sensitivity truly is, or what it can do. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. It lets you perceive the subtle, unspoken truths most people miss. Where others see chaos, you sense patterns. Where others dismiss energy shifts, you feel them deeply. It's not just about feeling your own emotions. It's about tuning into the undercurrents of the world, the pain, the joy, the lies, and the beauty that exist beneath the surface. This ability to perceive deeply terrifies those in power because it makes you nearly impossible to deceive. Their systems depend on people being numb, disconnected, and too distracted to notice what's happening. They've built a world that thrives on apathy and disconnection, but you couldn't be hardened. They've tried to overwhelm you with chaos, make you doubt yourself, and drown you in noise so you'd start to believe that your sensitivity makes you weak. But here's what they didn't count on. Your sensitivity didn't break you. It shaped you. It taught you how to navigate the noise, listen to your inner voice, and treat your feelings even when the world convinces you otherwise. And because of this, you've become a force they cannot contain. Your sensitivity connects you to something greater. It allows you to feel the collective pain that others ignore. You see the cracks in their systems, not just with your eyes, but with your heart. You recognize the humanity they try to erase, the suffering they try to hide, and the hope they try to extinguish. And this connection, this ability to feel deeply and see clearly, makes you unstoppable. What they fear most is that you'll fully embrace this part of yourself one day. Because when you do, you'll stop hiding. You'll stop believing their lies. And you'll start using your sensitivity to do precisely what they've been trying to prevent, to heal, connect, and awaken a world that has been asleep for far too long. Your sensitivity isn't your weakness. It's the key to everything. It's your quiet rebellion against a world that wants you numb. And the moment you stop apologizing for it, you'll find it's not just your strength, your power to change everything. Some of you have always felt disconnected from the world around you. While others seem content with how things are, you see the gaps, the missing pieces, the places where the puzzle doesn't quite fit. It's not just intelligence or creativity. It's an instinctive understanding that the world isn't functioning as it should. You were born holding the blueprint for something different, something better, making you both extraordinary and dangerous in equal measure. Your mind operates on a frequency that most people can't tune into. While others are focused on immediate concerns, you naturally zoom out, seeing the bigger picture and the connections between seemingly unrelated things. You notice the systems that govern our lives, designed to confine thought, limit potential, and perpetuate control cycles. Where others see order, you see the flaws. Where others accept the rules, you see the possibilities for rewriting them. And this is what terrifies them the most. Those in power rely on these systems staying intact. Their control depends on everyone else believing this is just how things are. But you were never fooled. You instinctively know that these systems are a house of cards, carefully balanced but inherently fragile. And more importantly, you see how they can be dismantled, not with violence, but with vision. Your thoughts, insights, and ability to see the bigger picture are not just yours. They carry the codes for collective awakening, a shift far beyond you. Every realization you've had, every moment of clarity, is like a key, unlocking the door to a new way of being. And though you may not always see the impact, every time you speak your truth or act in alignment with your vision, you're planting seeds in the minds of others. Seeds that will grow into revolutions. The systems they've built weren't designed to accommodate you because you were never meant to fit into them. You weren't born to maintain the status quo, but to rewrite it. The moment you stop doubting the value of your perspective and embrace the unique blueprint within you, their control will begin to crumble. Because your vision isn't just yours. It's the foundation for a world that could exist beyond their rules. You've never been able to look at the world without questioning it. From a young age, you felt something about how things worked didn't make sense. While others accepted the systems around them as unchangeable, you couldn't stop noticing the cracks. It wasn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. You weren't trying to be complicated. It's just how you're wired. Disruption isn't a choice for you. It's in your DNA. You're not content to sit back and accept what doesn't feel right. Where others see stability, you see stagnation. Where others see order, you see systems built to suppress and control. It's not that you seek chaos, quite the opposite. You crave authenticity, fairness, and freedom, knowing that none can exist within a rotten system. That's why they've labeled you a troublemaker who refuses to go with the flow. But deep down, they know the truth. Your disruption isn't chaos, it's creation. You don't just break things for the sake of it. You break what no longer serves so that something new or better can occur. This is why they fear you. Because you don't play by their rules. You don't settle for what's been handed to you. And most importantly, you inspire others to question the rules, too. Without even trying, your refusal to conform disrupts their carefully crafted systems. You show others that it's possible to live differently, think differently, and reject the boxes they've been forced into. And here's the beauty of it. Your disruption is contagious. Every time you question how things are, you spark something in those around you. They start to see the cracks too. They begin to wonder if there's another way. And this terrifies those in power because their systems thrive on predictability. They depend on people following the script, staying within the lines, and never questioning why the system exists in the first place. But you were never meant to follow their script. You were meant to rewrite it. To disrupt not just for the sake of tearing things down, but to clear the way for something entirely new. That's why they can't stop you no matter how much they resist, because disruption isn't destruction, it's creation. And you? You were born to create a world that no longer relies on illusions, but thrives on truth, freedom, and authenticity. They've tried to silence, distract, and make you doubt yourself. But they don't understand this. Disruption isn't something you do. It's something you are. And no matter how much they try to suppress it, they can't stop what's in your DNA. The world you entered was not neutral from the moment you were born. It was designed, carefully and deliberately, to break you. Every obstacle, every betrayal, every wound. None of it was random. It wasn't just the misfortune of life. It was part of a system engineered to fracture your identity and make you question your worth. This world thrives on conformity. It demands that people fit neatly into predefined molds and punishes those who refuse. Your differences, the things that make you extraordinary, were treated as flaws, inconveniences to be stamped out. They hope to isolate you, to drown you in doubt and insecurity until you believe their lie, that you were powerless, small, and insignificant. But they underestimated you. They didn't understand that every wound, betrayal, and moment of pain was forging something inside you that they could never destroy. You were learning, growing, transforming. You didn't just endure the storm, you became it. You rose above them instead of breaking under the weight of their systems. You began to see the patterns, the deliberate design meant to keep you small. You started to understand that each challenge wasn't just an attack but a lesson, a tool to sharpen your resilience and expand your awareness. And here's the truth they fear most. Their attempts to break you backfired. Every time they tried to weaken you, you grew more assertive. Every time they wanted to confuse you, you gained clarity. Every time they tried to isolate you, you found a more profound connection within yourself. You were not made to fit into their mold. Deep down, you've always known that. The systems they built to control you became the proving ground for your strength. You didn't crumble. You transcended. And now, every scar you carry, every lesson you've learned, is a weapon of wisdom they can never take from you. They see it now. The resilience they couldn't break, the fire they couldn't extinguish. You are living proof that their systems are flawed, that their control is not absolute. And that terrifies them because they know what comes next. The world they built to suppress you will never be able to contain you again. You don't need to lead a protest or deliver fiery speeches to ignite change. Your very existence, as it is a spark that sets the world around you ablaze. Without even trying, you challenge the norms, rules, and systems others accept without question. You are, by your nature, a catalyst for revolutions. People notice something about you, even if they can't say it. It's the quiet defiance in your eyes, the way you refuse to conform, the way you question what others take for granted. You don't follow the script society has written. That alone is enough to disrupt the carefully constructed illusions they've built. Your thoughts carry weight, even when unspoken. Your actions create ripples that others can feel, no matter how small. You make people uncomfortable, not because you try to, but because your presence reminds them that you are buried deep inside themselves. No matter how small systems they cling to, the illusions they've accepted, the lies they tell themselves to stay comfortable, all of it starts to unravel when you're near. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to do anything grand to create change. Your life is the revolve start you make to live authentically. Every refusal to conform and every question you ask that others are too afraid to voice all chip away at the foundations of their control. Oppressive systems rely on predictability. They need people to stay in line and follow the rules, and they never question why those rules exist in the first place. But you are the wild card they can't account for. You don't just live outside their control. You inspire others to do the same. People watch you, even if they never say it. They see how you move through the world and refuse to settle for less than the truth. And whether they admit it or not, you plant seeds of doubt in their minds. Seeds that grow into questions that develop into movements. Revolutions don't always begin with loud declarations or dramatic acts. Often, they start with a quiet spark, a single person who refuses to accept the world as it is. That's you. You are proof that change doesn't always come from the top down. Sometimes, it begins with one person daring to live differently. And here's the truth. They can't escape. No matter how hard they try, they can't stop the revolution you represent. Because it's not just about you. It's about everyone who sees you and begins to believe that they, too, can break free. You are the beginning of something much more significant they can't control. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies them. You've always seen the world differently, where others are caught up in the surface, the shiny facades, the polished lies, the loud distractions. You instinctively look deeper. It's not something you were taught, but part of who you are. You notice what others miss, the small cracks in their stories, the subtle shifts in energy, the uncomfortable truths hiding in plain sight. For those who thrive on deception, this ability of yours is their greatest fear. They've built entire systems, governments, economies, hierarchies, assuming that most people won't look too closely. They depend on illusions, power propped up by fear, success measured by material gain, and truth buried beneath layers of carefully constructed narratives. But you pierce through those veils effortlessly. You don't just see the mask, you know the fear behind it. You sense the desperation in their attempts to maintain control, the cracks in their carefully constructed stories. No matter how beautifully wrapped lies stand out to you like neon signs. You don't need all the details to know something is off. Your intuition is the way. This perception isn't just about seeing deception. It's about seeing a more significant picture. You recognize the patterns that others overlook. You understand that what looks like chaos on the surface often hides deliberate manipulation. You see the systems within the systems, the invisible threads that connect their schemes, and the fragility of their control. And here's what terrifies them. You can make others see it too. It's not something you force. It happens naturally. Your clarity is infectious. You make people question what they accepted, whether the lies they've been told or the ones they tell themselves. Without even trying, you disrupt the illusions that keep them asleep. They've tried to stop you, of course. They've labeled you paranoid, overly skeptical, or even delusional. They've tried to gaslight you into doubting what you know to be true. But deep down, they realize the real threat. You can't unsee what you've seen. Once the veil is lifted, it can't be lowered again. Your ability to see beyond the surface doesn't just expose their lies. It illuminates the truth. And the truth, once revealed, is unstoppable. They fear you because they know that when enough people see through the veil, their control will collapse like a house of cards. Life is a loop, a predictable series of actions, reactions, and routines for most people. From the moment they're born, they're handed a script. Follow the rules, fit in, work hard, don't ask too many questions, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be rewarded. Society depends on this predictability. It thrives on people doing what they're told, staying in line, and never wondering if their path was chosen for them, not by them. But you're different. You've never been able to follow their script, not because you didn't. Their path was never meant for you. Nothing has stuck, no matter how hard they've pushed, how many labels they've thrown at you, or how often they've tried to force you into their mold. Nothing has stuck. No, the glitch in their system, the anomaly they can't account for. This isn't just about rebellion. It's about your nature question, thinking for yourself, and challenging what doesn't make sense. You don't just reject their rules, you transcend them. Where they see a rigid framework, you see infinite possibilities. You find ways to create, innovate, and disrupt where they demand conformity. And that's what terrifies them. Their power relies on predictability. They need to know what you'll do, how you'll respond, innovate, and go next. It's how they stay in control, anticipating every move and ensuring it falls within their boundaries. But you don't play by their rules. You don't stay inside there. They've studied you, tried to understand you, and set boundaries for you to become more manageable. But every time they think they've figured you out, you surprise them. Your creativity, your defiance, your refusal to be boxed in. It's like trying to catch smoke in their hands. This unpredictability isn't just a quirk, it's a weapon. It disrupts their plans, undermines their control, and forces them to face a reality they can't manipulate. It's not just that you won't conform. Your very existence proves there's another way. You show others that they, too, can step outside the loop, break free from the script, and reclaim their power. And here's the truth they don't want you to realize. Their system isn't as strong as it seems. It's built on the assumption that everyone will follow the same predictable patterns. But you are living proof that the system can be broken. You're the glitch that exposes the flaws, the spark that reminds others they don't have to live on autopilot. You chip away at the foundation of their control whenever you refuse to conform or challenge their expectations. And no matter how hard they try, they can't stop you. You weren't just born to break their system. You were born to show the world that a new way is possible. The world loves loudness. It celebrates bold, attention-grabbing displays of power, fiery speeches, grand gestures, and visible revolutions. But your power doesn't operate on their terms. It doesn't demand attention or rely on spectacle. Your power works in the quiet spaces, subtle shifts, and steady undercurrents of change that most people overlook until it's too late to stop. Your presence alone has A to it. It alters the E in a room, sparks thoughts in the minds of others, and plants seeds of change that grow long after you've left. You don't need to announce your intentions for them to take effect. A single word from you can linger in someone's mind for days, reshaping how they see the world. A simple idea shared in passing can take root and transform their thinking in ways they never expected. And that's what terrifies them. They can't see where your influence begins or ends. They can't trace the full impact of your presence because it operates beyond their comprehension. It doesn't conform to their expectations or play by their rules. They've tried to contain it, box it in, and find ways to limit your influence. But they can't stop something they don't fully understand. Your power doesn't need fireworks or a SE to make an impact. It thrives in the small, unnoticed moments, like how you encourage someone to see their strength or how your questions make people re-examine what they've always believed. It's the kind of power that shifts paradigms slowly but surely, eroding the foundations of their control until there's nothing left to stand on. They've built their systems to respond to overt threats, protests, uprisings, loud declarations of defiance. But your power isn't noisy and doesn't draw attention to itself. It creeps like water carving through stone, unstoppable and unrelenting. They can't stop it because they don't even see it coming. And here's the truth they refuse to admit. The most profound revolutions don't always come from the loudest voices. They often begin with quiet, steady, and relentless people like you. Your power works in the shadows, undermining their illusions and awakening those around you. It doesn't exist and doesn't wait for people like you for recognition. It simply moves forward, reshaping everything in its path. Their systems thrive on predictability. Every institution they've built, government, education, or corporate culture, relies on knowing how people will act, think, and respond. They've spent generations crafting ability, handing out scripts and rules for how life should be lived. It's how they maintain control, by ensuring that everyone plays their part in the story they've written. But you're the wild card they can't control. You don't follow their script and refuse to play the role they've assigned you. You don't move in predictable patterns or respond to their manipulation in ways they expect. Your minds don't operate within their confines. They lead a twist, is T, and reimagine paths they can't even comprehend. This unpredictability isn't just inconvenient for them. It directly threatens their power. Their systems depend on being able to anticipate every move, every choice, every possibility. But you disrupt that, and it directly threatens time. They think they've figured you out, and you surprise them. Whenever they think they've cornered you, you create a new path. It's not just your actions that unsettle them. It's your essence. You refuse whenever there are boxes, no matter how hard they try to contain you. They've labeled you in countless ways: rebellious, defiant, invention noivy, thrown obstacles in your way, hoping you refuse to fit into their boxes to slow you down. But each one only sharpens your resolve. And here's the secret they don't want to admit. Your unpredictability is the one thing they can't account for. It's the glitch in their carefully constructed system. The reminder that no matter how much control they think they have, there's always something beyond their reach. Your creativity, intuition, and refusal to settle for their version of reality terrifies them because it proves their control is an illusion. They've intuition and the assumption that people will rule the rules in line and never question the game. But you've broken free from that game entirely, and every time you move outside their expectations, you shatter the illusion further. They've tried to predict, mold, and force you into patterns they can understand. But you're not just a person living outside their control. You're a reminder that control is power. You don't just challenge their authority, you expose its fragility. With every unpredictable move you make, whenever you see their emotions, you remind them that they're not as powerful as they want to believe. And in doing so, you don't just disrupt their system, you inspire others to do the same. Because the truth is, you're not just unpredictable, you're unstoppable. And that's what they fear most of all. Every time they've tried to break you, every time they've thrown obstacles, betrayals, or overwhelming pressure your way, you've emerged stronger. Their attempts to control you, to confine you, and to silence you haven't succeeded. Instead, they've revealed the one truth they've worked so hard to hide. Their power is not absolute. Their systems are built on a fragile foundation that depends on people believing in its permanence. They want you to see them as invincible, untouchable, and arbiters of your reality. But every time you rise and defy their expectations, you expose the cracks in their facade. It's not just a personal victory, but a direct challenge to the systems they've constructed. When they labeled you, you refused to wear their labels. When they boxed you in, you broke through. When they told you to stay in your place, you stepped forward anyway. And every time you did, you shattered their illusion of control, because the truth is that their power is only as accurate as people's belief in it. And you've stopped believing. What terrifies them most is the example you set. By simply refusing to bend to their will, you show others it's possible to resist. Your resilience isn't just about surviving their attempts to suppress you. It's about thriving despite them. And ever someone witnesses your strength, they question the narratives they've been fed. This is why they've been so despite. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to prove they aren't. You are the embodiment of their greatest fear. A person who cannot be controlled, who cannot be broken, and who cannot be silenced. Their systems thrive on conformity, fear, and doubt. But you are living proof that those systems are weaker than they appear. Every time they tried to bury you, they didn't realize you were a seed. And now, as you grow, you show the world that their power was never as accurate as they claimed it to be. You are a reminder that their control is temporary, their systems are flawed, and their power is nothing more than an illusion waiting to collapse. And with every step you take, you bring that collapse closer. At your core, you are a testament to something they cannot suppress: possibility. You represent the potential for a world beyond their control, a reality where people are no longer bound by their systems of fear and limitation. Your existence is living proof that change is not just possible, it's inevitable. From the very beginning, they saw this in you. It's why they tried so hard to contain you, mold you into something smaller and safer. They knew that if you ever embraced your full potential, you wouldn't just change your life, you inspire others to do the same. And it isn't just about breaking free from their systems. It's about showing others they can do the same. With every choice you make, every truth you speak, and every time you defy their expectations, you open a door for someone else to follow. You are a beacon, a guide, a living reminder that there is always another way. But this isn't just about rebellion. It's about creation. You're not here to destroy for destruction's sake, but to build something better. You carry within you the seeds of a new paradigm that isn't based on fear, control, or scarcity, but on but and abundance. What they fear most isn't just that you'll dismantle their systems. It's enlace them with something they can't control. They've spent their lives clinging to power, believing it's the only way to survive. But you show them, simply by existing, that true power isn't about control, it's about possibility. And that's why your journey matters so much. Because it's not just your freedom you're fighting for. It's the freedom of everyone who has ever felt trapped, silenced, or diminished. You carry the blueprint for a world where people can live authentically and step into their without fear. Your existence is a ripple that turns into a wave, a spark that becomes a fire, a single voice that inspires a chorus. They've tried to silence you, make you doubt yourself, and convince you that you're alone. But the truth is, you were never alone. You are part of something much bigger, something they can't contain. You are the proof that their systems are not the end of the story. You are the possibility of something greater. And no matter how hard they try, they cannot stop what you represent. Because you are not just here to survive. You are here to awaken, transform, and create a world where possibility reigns supreme. By embracing your power, vision, and truth, you show the world that you transform and go to those who cling to the past. It belongs to those who dare to imagine something more. Keep going. You are the spark they've been afraid of, and the world is waiting for the fire you're about to ignite.